You know that feeling when the nerves kick in right before you're about to give a speech? Or maybe you spend the days and weeks leading up to a presentation stressing out over the way that you are going to show up. Most people have some level of stress, nerves, anxiety, insecurities before they're about to speak in public. And that is why I wanted to make this video, so that we could go over some of the common mistakes that you can avoid and set yourself up for success before you take the stage again. Let's start with common mistake number one when preparing to speak in public, and that is hyper focusing on the technical aspects of your speech. That could mean grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, all of the above. When you spend too much time stressing over trying to sound perfect in front of your peers or the people that you are trying to impress, you will get caught up in all of the small things and miss out on the bigger picture. You will not be tapped in and tuned into your audience. You won't even be tuned into yourself and embodying the message that you are trying to deliver. While having strong speeches and compelling storytelling is important, it is detrimental to your success to hyper focus and limit yourself by getting stuck on things like your accent, pronunciation, and grammar. I see this happen all the time with my clients because when English or whatever language you're speaking in is not your first language, there tends to be this level of defense, this chip on your shoulder, feeling like you have something to prove. And with good reason. I'm not doubting that you haven't been discriminated against or judged for sounding different, acting different, speaking differently than everyone else. But the reality of the situation is, and the reality of the world that we live in, is that people are always going to find something to judge you for or to pick on you about. It might even be your name, your hair, the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, your personality. Having perfect grammar or perfect pronunciation is not going to stop people from judging you. Remember, there are native speakers in your own language who struggle to speak in public. Not everybody who speaks a language fluently is a perfect public speaker. Do not forget this, and do not hold yourself to a standard that is unrealistic and is making you feel bad about yourself, especially if you don't have that much time left before your big day. Instead of getting stuck on the small things, keep in mind the bigger story that you are trying to tell. What is the content? How is it organized? Who are you trying to reach? Are you going to have impact? What are the solutions that you are offering? What are the next steps? How are you going to bring value to the people who are listening to you instead of making the whole thing about yourself? Those are the things you should be focusing on instead. The second most common mistake I see people make when preparing to give a speech or talk in public is trying to memorize from a script. Memorizing word for word what you are trying to say is, again, only going to hold you back. Because here's the reality of what actually happens. When you show up that day and something goes wrong, something throws you off, you are going to be caught off guard. And you won't remember exactly what you were trying to say. You will forget your place. You will spiral. You will blank. That will make you feel even more nervous, stress you out, and then ruin the overall momentum and energy that you have. A better approach to practice is to recreate that feeling of having to be put on the spot and thinking on your feet. That means remembering general ideas, key points, highlights, bullet points that will stick out to you in your mind that you can actually visualize and remember when it comes time to say those words out loud. Just like how you wouldn't want to listen to someone read something word for word off of a PowerPoint slide, you don't want to listen to someone rehearse what they've scripted out loud like a robot. And I'm not discounting that what you wrote isn't beautifully written, but there's a difference between the way we write and the way we speak. Your written language, the narrative tone that you tend to use when you write, is much different than conversational speech and language. That doesn't mean that writing is more formal and speaking is more casual. It just means that when it comes time to put your thoughts and ideas together, it's not going to be as structured as when you are writing a more narrative story. And that is why oftentimes scripted presentations do not translate well to the real thing. And I'm always pushing my clients to try and speak from memory, to push themselves to explain their ideas and express their thoughts without looking at the page. It's not about remembering every single detail perfectly. You will most likely forget things along the way. I mean, that's natural. That's to be expected. You are only human. But the point of that is to get you to have more flexible thinking, to problem solve, and to navigate your way through what you're trying to say by accessing your memories and associations of the content. If you don't know your content, you won't know what to say. If you're trying to memorize a script, especially something that maybe ChatGPT has put together for you or someone else has written, you're going to have a much harder time presenting that speech. I'm just being honest. The third most common mistake that I see people make when preparing to give a speech or a presentation or do any kinds of public speaking is that you are not recreating the environment and the physical feeling of what you will be experiencing on that day. If you are going to be standing in front of an audience or even sitting at your desk and speaking in front of your computer, you need to recreate that feeling. What does it feel like physically in your body to sit and speak, to stand tall and address your audience, to make eye contact with them, to use your body, to figure out what you're going to do with your hands? Are you going to have any props with you? A pen, a pointer? How are you going to project and use your voice? How are you going to put your thoughts together when you're pacing back and forth across a stage and something catches your eye or you hear a sound in the background that might throw you off? Rehearsing and practicing is not just about recreating the physical feeling of speaking in public, but it's also about anticipating what might happen on that day. Remember, most things don't go exactly according to plan. So maybe you need to spend some extra time brainstorming alternative questions that you might be asked or objections that might come from the audience. Try to see things from their point of view. How are they going to interpret what you are presenting to them? If you're preparing for an interview, maybe they're going to throw you a curveball and get you thinking on your feet to showcase your creativity, your problem-solving skills. While you can't always predict what people are going to ask of you, you can certainly spend some time researching what people have been asked in the past or what is typically expected for you to know in those types of situations. By practicing out loud and rehearsing your speeches, you will also allow yourself the opportunity to brainstorm and troubleshoot and workshop your answers until you find something that feels most natural to you and becomes second nature. That's the approach that I take with the videos that I'm filming for YouTube. I have a general idea, I come up with an outline, I write out some bullet points and key terms or things that I want to highlight throughout the video. I structure things so that I know how I'm going to start, how I'm going to end. But when it comes time to film, I am thinking on my feet and I give myself enough time to talk out loud so that I can record it all and edit it down as needed. But unless I give myself that time and space to actually say these things out loud, I would never get it right on the first try. Because these are topics that are important to me and they're more educational and informational. I don't want to just pull things out of the air, make it seem like I know what I'm talking about without having put any effort into it. Now, there are certainly videos that you can get away with or speeches that you can get away with by just winging it, showing up, having fun, being yourself, being more conversational. But I'm specifically referring to those times in your life where you are being put on the spot and you are being expected to shine, to teach, to lead, to inspire, to educate, to motivate, to sell, whatever it may be. So in review, the 3 most common mistakes that I want you to avoid the next time you're preparing for a speech are: number 1, not hyper-focusing on the technical aspects of your speech and keeping the big picture in mind. Number 2, not memorizing your script word for word. And number 3 is to recreate the environment, the feeling, and the act of speaking out loud. Putting in the time to rehearse, prepare, and research. Do not skip this step. Thinking things in your head is not enough. talking with your friend about your speech is not enough. You have to actually recreate the act of speaking in public by doing it. And if you don't have enough opportunities in your life or your work setting to speak in front of an audience, then that means you've got to practice on your own, work with a professional, do whatever you need to do to recreate that experience so that you can show up feeling super prepared and confident for your big day. Let me know if you found these tips helpful and if there are any other things that you are struggling with when it comes to public speaking and putting yourself out there. That's it for me today. I will see you in the next one. Bye.